Man, I love this topic. And no, it's not because we're just reading some crazy article that has a terrifyingly strange trade idea attached to it. Nah, we're not reading an article in this one. Instead, we're going over onto what was essentially a trade tree. It's a mini sort of trade tree, not really a deep analysis because there are many trades that are actually connected to this idea, but there is one series of trades that you could follow for one individual asset that I thought was super interesting and that I wanted to share here in the channel because, hey, it's the off-season, nothing else to talk about. Let's go back over onto when the heck was this first trade made? October 12th, 2020. I remember this very well because we were wrapping up the 2020 NHL offseason and I was kind of just getting ready for the regular season. We were still in the middle of quarantining and pandemic stuff, and on October 12th, 2020, when the Vancouver Canucks made this trade, I was actually at a buddy's house. They were playing Smash Bros in the living room and I had to go into one of the bedrooms to record the audio by myself because I was like, oh crap, like there's a Canucks trade that was made. I actually made the thumbnail on my friend's computer because he didn't have Photoshop. He had some knockoff version that I had to make do with instead. But back on October 12th, 2020, the Vancouver Canucks made a trade with the Vegas Golden Knights, acquiring defenseman Nate Schmidt for a third-round pick. Now, the third-round pick was the 2022 third-round pick belonging to Vancouver, that in which we'll revisit as the video goes on. But Nate Schmidt was the asset coming back that I thought was an absolute steal of a player to get, especially for only a third-round pick. This was because back in that time frame, Nate Schmidt was 29 years old. Sure, he was making just under $6 million a season till the end of 2025, which was a pretty beefy contract, especially with a modified no trade. But this was a player that in his previous 3 seasons had 30 points on the year each. His previous season had 31 points in 59 games played, and I was like, boom, baby, the Vancouver Canucks are getting themselves a very legit, very offensively capable, left-handed defenseman that can play on the right side. This is going to help out our power play, this is going to help out our breakout, this is a good puck-moving guy. Huge win. Amazing, amazing trade by Jim Benning. Fantastic. And Vegas, I mean, because they're cap-strapped, because they're getting Pietrangelo, because they're getting Eichel, they're getting all these big-name guys, Stone, Pacioretty, etc., they had to trade this guy away. Even though he was valuable, even though he was a 30-point defenseman, because he was making under $6 million a season. That's why the Canucks only gave up a third-round pick. Now, long story short, Nate Schmidt in Vancouver was an experiment that really did not work. He had 15 points in 54 games played, which I guess is an okay points per game. Do 15 divided by 54, multiplied out by 82, and you have yourselves a guy that was on pace for 22 points, which is not 30, like how he had in previous seasons. In fact, his previous few years all had much higher point per game metrics. But Nate Schmidt in Vancouver was not really just a failed experiment because of the point production. It was also a failed experiment because he just didn't mesh well with the locker room. Sure, he meshed well with the media. The media here in Vancouver, Thomas Drance, etc., they loved asking him questions because he was a very articulate player who would answer with very good detail and everything, which was nice. But when it came to the attitudes on the ice, there were a lot more articles coming out after Nate Schmidt left Vancouver saying that, hey, there just wasn't really a fit here, he didn't really vibe with a lot of the guys. There were still concerns about the pandemic rules and guys like Holtby and Schmidt wanting to enforce those, and some of the Canucks players getting a little bit lax, which is why there was even an outbreak amongst the team in general, which was very ugly, but still, at the same time, the Vancouver Canucks in 2020-2021 definitely were not the most fun group of players to watch, and Nate Schmidt was a part of the group that just did not really do anything to meet the expectations that they had. Sure, it was only 56 games on the season, but what we thought was an offensively capable power play quarterback coming over into Vancouver was a guy that really just did not mesh with the system that Travis Green had, and ultimately, you saw Schmidt get traded away for a third-round pick after 1 year only. He got sent over to Winnipeg. He had a 30-point year. Of course he did. 28 assists and 4 goals in 77 games played. And he's actually looking like a pretty okay defenseman for them now, despite the less than $6 million cap hit. Now, I wanted to explore what exactly happened to that third-round pick that the Vancouver Canucks traded away in that Nate Schmidt trade all those years ago. Because Vegas did not actually use that third with their own organization, the 2022 Vancouver third. Instead, this third-round pick was sent over to the Ottawa Senators, alongside of Nick Holden in exchange for Evgeny Dadonov. This was a few months after the Nate Schmidt trade was made, and we actually made a video on the channel going over this Dadonov-Holden swap. But ultimately, Evgeny Dadonov was a very talented Ottawa Senators goal scorer that was coming off a very good stint in Florida, who got sent over to the Vegas Golden Knights in a manner that was just so comical, because we all know what happened with Dadonov after he became a Golden Knight. They tried to trade him again to Anaheim, but no, they were on his no-trade list. They didn't have his no-trade list, which is why that trade got rescinded, and you could debate that's why the Vegas Golden Knights even missed the playoffs, because they didn't get the cap space that they wanted to free up from trading Dadonov away in the first place. But ultimately, Evgeny Dadonov was sent over to Vegas in exchange for Nick Holden, as well as that Vancouver third that was given to Vegas in the Nate Schmidt trade. Now, Ottawa did not use that Vancouver Canucks third-round pick either, because they traded that away to Vancouver for Travis Hamonic. Now, this is kind of how everything goes down, because the Vancouver third was sent over from Vancouver to Vegas on October 12, 2020, from Vegas to Ottawa on July 28, 2021, and then on March 20th, 2022, it was traded back to Vancouver in that Hamonic trade, that in which I covered behind the parking lot of a Denny's, and I was like, Alvin, what a trade. Amazing trade right there. How the heck were you able to unload Travis Hamonic, of all people, for only a third-round pick and no player in return that's got significant salary? Travis Hamonic has 1 year left at $3 million a season. He's a right-handed defenseman. Not really that great. I mean, sure, he had some good seasons before. Like, he had 30 points as a member of the Islanders, but that was 7 years ago when the guy was... How old was he when he had that season? 24? He's 31 now. He's not really all too great, not really all too physical, not really all too mobile. Plus, there was a lot of controversy going around with Hamonic and his accessibility to the team, I guess is the best way to put it. Him being available for the squad in general. It was a really unfortunate situation to watch unfold, Travis Hamonic just really not being there for the Vancouver Canucks, and ultimately, he got traded over to Ottawa for that third-round pick in a one-for-one swap. This is where things get interesting, because Vancouver, holding on to the 2022 third-round pick that was initially theirs, that was sent over to Vegas, eventually to Ottawa, and back to Vancouver, with that third-round pick, which eventually became 80th overall, the Vancouver Canucks selected from Örebro Hockey Club in the SHL, Elias Pettersson. So, it's kind of funny, because if you follow the tree all the way back to its origins, what was initially a Vancouver third became a Vancouver third via proxy from the Ottawa Senators and the Vegas Golden Knights, and ultimately you turned Nate Schmidt into Elias Pettersson. Now, it's not necessarily like that, because if you try to undo everything, you go back to the beginning, you pretty much turned what was going to be inevitably Elias Pettersson in 2022 into a season of Nate Schmidt, which eventually became Travis Hamonic because you traded away Schmidt and you signed Hamonic, and then you traded Hamonic away to get back the player or the pick that became Nate Schmidt in the first place. It's kind of funny how everything turns out, doesn't it? And now Vancouver has a meme that is just so above and beyond funny that... I mean, look, Elias Pettersson is not even a bad player. Like, the new guy, Elias Pettersson, the defenseman from Örebro, he's not even a bad player. He's a solid puck-moving guy with a lethal shot and who's got some pretty good defensive shutdown abilities. I like that a lot. And if the Vancouver Canucks can, in some sort of roundabout way, get themselves their own third-round pick that they lost 2 years ago, with a series of carousel trades from Schmidt to Hamonic to another third-round pick you got from Winnipeg, it's just kind of funny, you know? So, at the end of the day, I think the Nate Schmidt trade return has finally been finalized, and it comes in the form of Vancouver getting a pick/player that they held on to 2 years prior before actually using the pick, just in some sort of roundabout way via proxy from Hamonic. So, yeah, the last few minutes of this video were just kind of me going in circles because this whole trade was going around in circles. Talk in the comments all your thoughts about Nate Schmidt and his time in Vancouver. If you're a Winnipeg Jets fan, hey, what are your opinions on Schmidt? Do you have a lot more of a positive perception on this guy than the folks here in Vancouver did? Because we made a lot of videos going over the downfall of Nate Schmidt and why it didn't work and why he was seen initially as a very good ad that didn't really work out. And so, if the Jets fan base is getting a lot more out of this guy than the Vancouver fan base did, then hey, good for you guys. I definitely don't want to wish ill will to Nate Schmidt in his career. It's just, I kind of like this outcome now. where Vancouver gets their own third-round pick back after another series of trades, and they use it to select a guy that they already had in the system in Elias Pettersson. Talk to the console your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj 99, and bye.